And we are back today with another man versus machine, another round of Yaacov Norowitz taking on the dragon. He has performed incredibly well, that being Yaacov. Nothing against you, lizard face. But the human is currently defending all of us. So if you are just joining Man vs. Machine and you missed rounds 1 and 2, I highly recommend you back up and check out how things went. Yesterday, you can see the videos on demand. The replay is available in the Twitch library, coming soon to YouTube if you prefer watching over there. But check it out right now. Let's put that off to later, because right now we got to focus here on whether or not Yaacov Norowitz is going to find a way to checkmate Komodo before he gets back. All the material odds we've seen so far have been positions where the material advantage allowed Yaacov a more long-term, more positional, an approach that allowed Yaacov to kind of leverage his material advantage, despite maybe some critical moments with tactics. He could kind of ease away and still squeeze himself into an endgame, and he did very well. I mean, the truth is he hasn't really been in danger of losing. But this game is going to be a little bit different. The position you see in front of you is really exciting because it's basically put up or shut up for Yaacov. He has to find a way to convert on the initiative. He has to find a way to checkmate the black king here in the middle of the board. If he doesn't, there's no more material advantage here for Yaacov. The engine has everything he needs to slowly outplay the human. No material deficit. We've seen him being down a piece. We've seen Komodo being down a couple pawns. This is all the initiative. Or use that initiative to convert into another type of material advantage, which could be totally possible. Or you would expect Komodo to be able to slowly outplay Yaacov. So thanks for being here. Just wanna let you all know how much we appreciate you tuning in to Twitch TV/chess, and give us our channel a follow, give us a subscribe, and all those joining us right now in both chat rooms at Chess.com TV and at Twitch TV/chess. Let's go ahead and check in on our players and see how they're doing here. Yaacov is playing from a different location today, playing from an office building of a friend of his. I can confirm that. Komodo is still in the same mode he's always been, which is hunt down humans and find ways to demolish them. In this case, though, hopefully Yaacov can turn the tables from what you see here, right? Normally, the way human beings run away from the dragon is something that you might see looks a little bit like this, right? Complete fear in their eyes, hoping the Komodo doesn't catch up. But perhaps today, with the king being in the middle of the board, Yaacov can turn the tables a little bit. Who knows? But let's continue to take a look as Yaacov sips on that coffee, and let me check in with all of you here in the chat. I'm making sure that everything seems good and live. Seems to be that way. Fans are excited. I'm excited to see how Yaacov develops a plan against this king on d5. That's the honest truth. That is the honest truth right here. Sorry for the distraction there, just making sure everybody's with us. Stop that king. Yeah. Robert0505 is freaking out over the starting position. Yeah, this is definitely going to be a little different, right, than the ones we've seen. The fans are here. Thanks, Hack Lover, for being here. I think these are odds. I actually don't know the mathematical evaluation. Maybe Pete can jump in the chat. Hack Lover is wondering what the mathematical evaluation is of these odds. C3 is an interesting move there, right? Because you might think that C4 check, trying to induce the king to come further, might be better. But if we switch over to some of the analysis here, the issue with C4 check, I believe, is that the king will run back to E6, and actually the pawn on C4 kind of works against you as the human, looking to take advantage of something on the diagonal. Let's take a quick look at how that looks. You know, if you play c4 check here, and the king doesn't take it, okay, obviously taking it is probably walking into a forced mate. We can imagine that something like this is going to get nasty. So taking it wouldn't be an option, but I think if the king runs to e6, you know, and if you try to play something like queen to b3, the king gets to f7, and before you know it, Komodo has reached safety. So according to our engine specialist, the starting evaluation in this particular position is plus 2.75. And plus 3.4 if you're using stockfish. So it is odds, Hack Lover. It's not the same type of. I mean, there are different approaches in chess depending on the type of advantage you have. There's no denying that, right? The way I would describe that would be something like there are basically always two types of things you're playing for in chess: a concrete, sustainable advantage. The highest pinnacle of concrete advantages is checkmate. Then we talk about large material. Then we talk about maybe small amounts of material. Then you talk about structural weaknesses, pawns and squares, things that can't be undone. Those are all things that, you know, they're concrete as long as the position remains that way, right? Then there's the initiative. The initiative is a lead in development. The initiative is king safety. The initiative can be space or peace activity. All of those things are real, but they require a different type of approach, right? Converting upon a space advantage or taking advantage of someone's king is only as good as when you can attack that king, right? And as long as you keep the attack going, then you keep your opponent off balance. A lead in development is only as good as you staying ahead in development, right? So yes, it is an advantage. How does that actually compare to the previous advantages where Komodo started out down 2 pawns, like the first game we saw yesterday, where he was down the b7 and f7 pawns? I actually don't know. I'm going to ask Pete to look up what is the starting evaluation according to Komodo and Stockfish in, for example, the first 2 games that Yaacov had versus this one, where his attack is obviously going to be based purely on whether or not he can get something against this king. So let's speculate here. As somebody behind Yaacov is barking out orders to his employee. That's pretty funny, actually. I wonder what else we'll get to see today in the glass room that Yaacov is playing from. But let's say that White plays something like e4. Right? Let's say you try to induce the king forward. Again, I think that these types of moves, Komodo's not going to fall for something like that, where suddenly, you know, pieces are coming out and allowing the initiative to be improved upon with tempo. Even a move like d4 followed by threats of like bishop d3 probably looks pretty good. But if the king runs, then where this advantage is going to convert itself, everybody, is that it's possible that this initiative becomes something concrete in terms of material. Maybe not material in terms of pawns right away, but if you look at a position that, I don't know, I mean, I'm just like making crazy moves and saying like White just gets this like massive space advantage that can continue to be an attack, right? That, you know, you can continue to assault the king even if it tries to hide itself on the queen side. You can continue to try to have your pieces come together, you know, for different attacking ideas. So it's not going to be the kind of thing where you can sit tight and play less aggressive, less principled against the king because there is no long-term material advantage. And Yaacov and I actually talked about that before this game, and he admitted that this is the game that has him the most nervous. Right? Yesterday, it was much more up his alley in terms of long-term positional things he can squeeze out. The king is trying to walk away, much like we see the Komodo dragon walking away across the bridge. I don't know if the dragon has been set free in this video. I don't know, but the dragon looks happy to be taking a stroll down a concrete paradise. So, you know, the king is going to try to run away, much like the dragon is trying to run away here. And if Yaakov's not careful, he might get a tongue in his ear. But we'll leave that. We'll leave that for the skeptics to debate. All right. Well, Komodo's thinking. No, Yaacov is thinking. Yaacov is thinking right now, and the dragon is spinning his wheels. The dragon is spinning his wheels currently. Yaakov's friend is sipping on a Dunkin' Donuts. Who knew we were brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts? Dunkin' Donuts has been making a comeback, right? If you watch America's Got Talent. My wife and I watch America's Got Talent because it's something we can watch with the kids. So Dunkin' Donuts is all over the place, and I just, weird. Anyway. All right, so the Yaacov is thinking. I mean, this is critical, right? I think another move we have to consider is if we pop back to the analysis mode here, I think another move that we have to consider because b6 was played would be a move like queen to a4, I think. Queen a4 stops the king from getting to c6. I mean, so from the pure perspective of let's make it difficult for Komodo to regroup, I think queen a4 has to be on the agenda. If the king runs to e6, probably you have to be careful not to start playing superficial chess with checks and maybe go for a move like e4 so that you can get the bishop out. And again, this just like, it never seems to thrill you if he's going to get a position like this because you're just deathly afraid of what happens once the engine starts coordinating. But, I think there's no way we can assume that white is just going to checkmate Komodo. The engine is not going to get checkmate in the middle of the board. So are you going to find a way for one type of advantage, the initiative, to evolve into, a really large space advantage and maybe a long-term attack that requires the computer to maybe give up some material if he starts getting worried about ideas of assaulting and opening up the king? I don't know, but I think again, because that style is obviously everything we're talking about for white right now is really accurate and aggressive tactics. Yaacov, as he's admitted in our post-game analysis sessions, which if you've missed them, by the way, Yaacov has been really insightful. So I really like it. We got to get Yaacov on some more chess TV shows. I feel like he's been pretty insightful in regards to his thought process and providing some little educational nuggets. So again, if you missed yesterday's shows and you have some time this week or this weekend, check them out because I think these man versus machine shows have been a lot of fun. Okay, but let's go back to seeing what these players look like as we dive into analysis. And Yaacov is just, he's in the think tank right now. Definitely in the think tank, that's for sure. And to answer the question that many that I posed and I think others were wondering, so how does this initial starting position, if you're just joining us, this was the initial starting position compared to what we saw previously. Yesterday, round one, Komodo's king was on e8, but he was missing the f7 and b7 pawns. In round two, Yaacov was black. He was missing the b7 pawn, but Komodo was missing a knight. So those material advantages were different than what you see here that is purely the initiative. And as I asked, our staff member has confirmed that they are pretty close. So despite the fact that this looks much different as you see the analysis board above the players, the starting evaluation, according to Stockfish of this one is 3.4. According to Komodo, it's 2.75. And the first one I highlighted, which was the king being on e8 and the f7 and b7 pawns being gone, was about 2.5. So very similar. In fact, according to Komodo, this is a bigger advantage for white than missing the two pawns. Game two, when we had the knight missing on b1 and Yaacov was black for the b7 pawn, right? That was the pawn that was missing. In that position, it was minus 2.25. So, meaning again, according to Komodo, he considers this position to be worse for black than the material odds positions. Now, that doesn't really mean anything in terms of our human hero here, Yaacov, the man in the yarmulke, the man we all stand behind here. For Yaacov, this is maybe not his favorite type of position. He already said how much he enjoyed kind of being able to slow play and avoid tactics with the long-term material advantages. So I love this. I mean, it leads to these philosophical debates, right? Isn't it interesting? I mean, it's like, the style may not be as important as the mathematical evaluation or vice versa. The mathematical evaluation is not as important as whether somebody is comfortable with the plan they have. So, and maybe John H.S. is right. Maybe John H.S. is saying in the Chess TV chat that perhaps, again, Komodo likes this position more for white because maybe the engines have more of a clear, concrete path that they've calculated, some sort of forced mate. I doubt it's forced mate, but I would bet the computers know a much more concrete way to take advantage of the king, where Yaacov doesn't know that. And Hacklover says the starting evaluation is similar, but opening theory is shot. Again, that's true, right? But you could argue opening theory is shot with the other pawns missing, other than the fact that Yaacov is trying to get positions he's comfortable with. One thing I wonder if Yaacov is considering here, if we look at the analysis board, is something like G3. Just because we know he loves playing fianchetto. He loves fianchettoing the bishops, and it wouldn't be the worst idea, right? If we're thinking about putting a bishop on this diagonal, given the approach Komodo has taken, I would bet that it's less aggressive than you would need to play here as white, but I was wrong before. P3 Revenge says he would be surprised if Yaacov didn't have some preparation. I don't know. I mean, I talked to Yaacov before the game. Okay, he goes for my suggested queen a4, by the way, which I think makes sense to stop king c6. And the queen just seems to be, needing to advance. I don't know how much he prepared. I know Yaacov was nervous. So prepared or not, I know Yaacov was nervous. So checking out the Twitch TV/chess chat. Want to give a shout out to Crush'em1, Outspan, Marcus Bjorndal, Ima Jarek, everybody who's here in the Twitch TV chat, thanks for being here. Outspan says the Bond Cloud opening, which is e4, e5, king e2, is minus 1.6 for black. Okay, not as big as 2.75 according to Komodo in terms of what this starting position was here with the king on e4. But okay, still. Skiza wants to know why the face the king is doing there. Remember, WTF means why the face, kids. Kids, just so you know, it doesn't mean anything else. Why the face is the king doing there is what Skiza wants to know. This is Material Odds. If you're just joining us, this is a man versus machine match we've been hosting over the next couple days. It's been a ton of fun. And for those of you wondering why we have picked up our level of man versus machine matches, well, first of all, it's a ton of fun. But also, we are getting ready for the first ever Chess.com Computer Chess Championship, which is going to be held November 13th through 16th. Komodo will be there. Stockfish will be playing. We'll have Houdini. We'll have some lesser-known engines like Fire. We actually hired a developer and expanded our team pretty much specifically to prepare for how we could host and make this match really kind of custom and cool. So not quite the TCEC World Championship, which for those of you who don't know is kind of the unofficially recognized Computer Chess World Championship, but it is our own chess championship with our own spin. It's going to have commentary, going to be a ton of fun. So mark your calendar if you're interested to see how these computers face off against each other. Some people think, wow, that's gross. Why would I ever want to focus on computers and not humans? Other people really like it and enjoy kind of the interesting nuggets that we can pull out of that. So let's go ahead and jump back over to the analysis here as we have seen a move. We have seen a move by Komodo meeting king a4 with the move king to d6. Interesting stuff, right? The TCEC is also next month, which is, just before ours. Skiza and Crush'em1 also saying why WTF can also mean why the fun or what the flip. These are all great ways you can use WTF to use them in the proper way. I talked to Hikaru today. IRS669 wants to know when Hikaru's next stream is. Hikaru is back in action and ready to do some fun content now that he has exited the World Cup. Hikaru's working on some videos for us. He also is launching his own kind of like 5 and 10 part kind of premium video series on Chess.com, and he's also going to get back to doing some streaming. So we're working on his schedule now, and I don't have any official dates yet. But at least you should just go follow his channel, so then when he goes live, and you can follow our channel here on Twitch TV/chess, and when he's streaming for us, you will also know when he's live. So, all right, how do we attack the king on d6, everybody? How do we do this? I like the way this position is developing for Yaacov. What if we just play the most natural and principled d4? How is d4 followed by threats of bishop f4 check not a good idea? Right? I think that if the bishop comes to f4 and there's threats on the diagonal, we have good reason to believe the Komodo dragon will be on the run, much like this young lady here, on the run. Okay, so if you play d4, let's say black plays e6, bishop f4 check, the king goes to e7. How do we get anything concrete here? This might be exact. I think it's only a matter of time before this king shields himself anyway. At some point, the king will get back behind the pawns. But how many moves has black given up to do that? Right? How many tempi has white been able to gain to get the attack going? These are all the questions that we'll wondering about. And so I think this might be a pretty good opportunity for white, because black still has some other things to figure out here. Yes, the king is not getting checkmated on e7, but how to develop other pieces without allowing things like, d5 coming in. Now we're opening up the position more, and the more the position opens up, the more the long-term attacking chances remain, right? If you can't get immediate checkmate, long-term attacking chances have to be on your agenda. Yeah, again, we still have a lot of people asking about what the starting odds were and are. We actually have the Fen available for anybody who wants to know it. You can see it on the analysis board here, which of course was the position starting with the king on e4. I can go ahead and grab the Fen for people who maybe are interested in knowing what exactly is the starting position here. So I'll go ahead and paste that in the Twitch chat for you. Head over to the Chess TV chat for you. And it's definitely a lot of fun. I mean, I'm if you're, it sounds ridiculous, but one way you might find these sort of shows and this sort of format to be useful is, what if you consider yourself to be somebody who struggles with the initiative, and you always want to play kind of slowly and concretely and get comfortable, but you feel like when you've had opportunities, your opponents sort of slip out of your grasp, right? Practicing positions where you have a starting edge that is based purely on tempi, based purely on development, like the position you see in this game, the one I just posted in the chat, is genuinely not a bad idea. And you can actually practice that on Chess.com. Let me show you real quick, because the biggest thing that you can do to actually do that is if you take the Fen, you can actually go over to Chess.com/analysis. Okay, you can see the initial starting evaluation of Stockfish or anyone just by loading the Fen and let it think for a minute and tell you exactly how much better it is, and maybe seeing some of the lines that it recommends is interesting. In fact, knight h3 seems to be recommended by Stockfish, but we know that Mr. Yaacov played knight f3, so that's interesting. The way you can practice this yourself is, you go to Chess.com analysis and you can play any position. You can finish any position versus the computer. Just click finish versus computer, and now Danny Wrench is taking his hand in this opening to face off against the computer. I'm going to play exactly what Stockfish said. I'm just going to play a few moves here, not to try to show Yaacov up or anything. I'm just curious. I'm curious how I would do. I'm going to play e4 now, with the threat of playing bishop to c4 if he had played king e6. And now that he goes there, I wonder if I can stop him from getting back to d6. If I can't, probably I have to settle on this. And again, I'd be back to something similar to what we're seeing Yaacov get, right? Just kind of a big development lead. Okay, so interesting, right? But I just wanted to show everybody that you have the ability to practice any position, and not only that, if you pace the Fen and play versus the computer, you can change the difficulty level. What if you have a fun little game with yourself where you start on the first move and you play a lower level, and then if you beat that with the initiative, you move up to the next level. So again, I mean, this is obviously a completely shameless plug of Chess.com's features, but it's not a useless plug, because this is something we've been working on. We've had drills available, our practice positions available long before anybody else, and we have a number of pre-selected positions you can practice. But and I have the ability to create more drills. So if you have a drill that you don't think we have and you want to play it, just ping me, send me a message, and maybe I'll create the drill for you. And save it as one of our regular drills. So you can play other drills, but again, if you have your own positions, maybe you have a coach who has a position that he thinks would be good for you to learn how to convert on the initiative, as we see here. Or get a position like we played yesterday. Play one of the positions where you have a material advantage, load it up into the analysis session, click finish versus computer, and just like that, you can control and improve things. So I really believe it's a very useful way to prepare for tournaments, is playing the computers and let them beat your face in. Because when you let the computers beat your face in, you learn how to anticipate your opponent's plans, because the computers will punish you if you're not thinking about their plans, seriously. So we head back into the show here. We've seen one more move by Yaacov, this interesting move, b3. with the idea of bringing the bishop to a3. I like it. Yaacov is being principled in that he really doesn't want this king to find safety. The risk of b3, I can say, is that what if black plays c6? Now you've taken away your ability to bring the bishop here. Maybe c6 is not what the computer wants, right? The computer certainly isn't thrilled about taking away developing squares from the knight. But these are the things we got to think about. Or not we, Mr. Yaacov, right? As the engine is spinning its wheels, Yaacov is relaxing in his chair and trying to think of how he might handle moves like c6 right now. That's the honest truth. So, anyway, for those of you just joining us, please say hi in chat. Thanks for being here. This is Man versus Machine, and there we go. C6 is played. That's kind of what I was expecting by Komodo. The initial position here, if you're wondering, why the fun is this position on the board, WTF, why the fun, as all the kids say, this was the starting position. So, there you go. Yaacov is going to continue to try to use his initiative here to get something concrete before the black king gets safe against what he is normally comfortable with, as Yaacov would acknowledge, but going to do his best to do just that. So let's go ahead and head over to our analysis board and continue to try to maybe anticipate what Yaacov might be able to do here. And again, if you're interested in practicing positions like this, whether it's material advantages, initiative advantages, you can use our tools as I displayed. Go to chess.com/drills and get your game on, man. Practice these positions for realsies, homies, for realsies. I see people, Robin0585 is talking about the new Apple X phone, the iPhone 10. I got to admit, I saw it yesterday and I thought it was cool. I usually, vomit a little bit in the back of my mouth when Apple releases new products without concrete improvements. But it actually looked like a significant step in a direction that was doing some really new stuff. So that the new Apple phone was kind of interesting. Mila D. Brahmi 8 says, hi, Danny, by the way. Hi, buddy, by the way. I'm not actually sure if drills are locked out for free players. Maybe there's a limitation on the amount you can do in a day, but even if you can only do one a day, you could still play a custom position like this and work on your initiative against it. So check out the analysis and the chess.com/analysis, or Iris669 is saying, doesn't that allow for more cheaters? I don't know exactly what you're saying. If you're saying that people have the ability to put positions into an engine immediately accessible on chess.com/analysis, you're right. But people have always had that ability, whether it was on chess.com or other sites. There's always an ability to cheat if that's what you want to do, and it's not really any harder than that. People have browser plugins that Stockfish tells them what to do. There's all kinds of stuff. So luckily, chess.com's cheat detection kind of ignores the method, because we can detect via mathematical means, and we do track all kinds of methods and ban people automatically. But we can track a lot, and it's very, very difficult for cheaters to hide what they're accessing over time. So not recommended for anybody to access engine analysis during a live or daily game, because we will close your account, as we do every month, in the thousands. So, hey, Danny, I photoshopped a glorious beard on your face a while ago. Which one was you, Outspan? I loved the beard contest. If I was half as manly as Amon Hambleton, I'd probably also drink and curse at the same time on television. But I'm not. Just kidding. Well, that's a good reason to upgrade your premium membership and give it a try, Ibex. Anyway, the RIP opening theories, and hi, Danny. Hi, our Trums. I don't really understand Queen of 4 check. Can we analyze this? Why is Yaacov playing? I was just going to say, what happens on e5? The engine plays e5, and the dragon continues to walk away, as we see him doing right now. I mean, he's escaping. That's why I chose this GIF just for today's show. Oh, you were the Hunger Games beard. Sweetness. I owe you a premium membership for that. I know you didn't get chosen as the winner, but go ahead and tweet at me Tweet at me, Outspan, with your beard Photoshop, and I'll get you a diamond membership trial, buddy. If you don't have one already. Okay, so I'm curious to see what Yaacov has here, because he plays bishop a3 check pretty quickly here after e5. I still see king to c7. This is Yaakov's plan, everybody. He has knight takes e5. Check out that. He has knight takes e5, which takes advantage of the pawn being pinned. If he captures, Yaacov has done what we've said he may need to do, which is convert his initiative advantage and turn that into at least a small material advantage, if not a large one. Depending on what happens here, that dark square bishop might go to town over here on these squares. So that's interesting. So the idea here after e5 and bishop a3 check is he might be forcing c5 from Komodo, right? To prevent knight takes e5. Again, if you miss the tactic here, knight takes. If you take it, the pawn is pinned, as I highlighted. But if you take here, you still have trouble because of knight to c4 discovered check. And then once you deal with that, by blocking or something, white can gobble back the bishop. So that's interesting. But look at Komodo. Komodo has a different idea. He plays king to e6. This prevents knight takes e5, not because of captures, but because now Komodo could play bishop takes a3, and there would be no discovered check on the king of this diagonal. So let's see what Yaacov has planned here. Maybe Yaacov only went this far, thinking that, okay, at the very least, I've managed to keep this king in the center that much longer, which is certainly useful for the human player. Nan Power 34 wants to know why Komodo is listed as a GM if he's that high rated. Honestly, we did that pretty much just for visual stimulation, I guess, because people like seeing those little titles. You're right, there is not officially titles for engines, but obviously if there were titles for engines, pretty much every active engine that exists on the planet would be listed as a Super Grandmaster, probably an SGM or something, right? And the human who owns this account, right, Larry Kaufman, the founder, the man who is, as I've said many times, is currently at home, helping for this relay. Larry Kaufman, who was a former world senior champion, and the man who is stroking the dragon, as you can see above me, right? He's got Komodo hooked up to about 70,000 CPUs of hard. I don't even know if 70,000 CPUs is a thing, but he's got a lot of power behind that dragon. So Larry Kaufman is a GM. But let's stay with this analysis here, because now that we've seen knight g5, we are facing our first kind of surprising critical moment. Again, it feels like this might be a little bit of a stretch here, because if you're not going to win material, if you're Yaacov, this move worries me. He can take now, and after queen takes f8, and Komodo has just done it, takes and takes. The line I calculate is king to f7 with tempo, and after the bishop comes to d6, if I'm Komodo, I might sack that pawn, or I might even just head back to f6. And I don't consider this position to be one where white has the same type of edge still as you do with the queens on the board and the king in the center, right? If you talk about the live position with the queens on the board and the king in the center, you know white maintains an initiative. But as the queens are about to come off, of course, we'd all be completely shocked if Komodo doesn't trade queens. I'm thinking this might be the first time that the Komodo takes down our race, our species. This doesn't look great, and Yaacov was nervous. He knew that kind of converting on this initiative might not be his strong suit. But we'll talk about this one. I'm curious what the engine says. I mean, you saw me use the Chess.com analysis tools to see how Stockfish approached it with knight h3, which was strange. I don't know. I'm not really sure where Yaacov maybe had better, but you already feel that just because of how strong we know Komodo is, that this is going to be hard for Yaacov to maintain. He's certainly better in the endgame, right? You would still take this position against any human being, but I assume the computer will play king f7. But the truth is, Komodo might also just be able to play king f6 immediately, defend the pawn that way. Why even waste tempo? Because now, actually, you put a tough question to white. If you play king f6, the threat of d5, just sort of bringing the pawn center together, that seems kind of strong for Komodo. So that's this is a position that is getting closer and closer to one where I feel like the Indian has seen the worst of it. Wow, the Indian is valuing the initiative even more, right? Totally willing to just sacrifice the g7 pawn. If bishop to g7, though, will you actually just lose? Actually, you can't even take the pawn. If you play bishop g7, your bishop gets trapped. Okay, maybe not with rook g6 immediately, but knight f5 does the trick. So reviewing this game post-analysis, it seems that probably the first critical mistake may have come back to playing b3, which is what Yaacov played here. You know, our initial instincts were to play d4, right? That was our suggestion. One, it just seems like a more disciplined move to grab the center. Secondly, it felt that this diagonal might have been more critical. My guess is that Yaacov calculated this line with b3 check, bishop a3 check, and queen f4. I think he calculated some line with this, with this knight takes e5 thing. Right, I think he calculated some line like this and saw the trick and kind of maybe fell in love with the idea or thought he was preventing the king from coordinating. But when Black was able to bring the king to e6, obviously that changed. And now, as we see in the live position, White realized, of course, that he can't take here, which means he has to give back the bishop pair, and that means yet another advantage is falling off the board as Komodo simply re-gobbles and puts Black in a position where he's doing just fine. So the Indian is no longer in trouble, and suddenly our view is going to change here to looking at things from the dragon's perspective as he hunts down an old man with no sense of style. Yeah, I mean, this is a Komodo dragon on the hunt now, because without a material advantage, the initiative, I mean, I don't even know that White's just even better here, right? I mean, the initiative is completely gone because, White doesn't even really have a lead in development, right? That puts you in a tough position, for sure, unfortunately, if you are Yaacov, but I'll be interested to see what his thoughts were about this b3 approach versus d4 and what he had calculated. But in fact, I'm actually looking at the notes now from my team members, and yeah, Pete actually confirms that b3 was kind of a key mistake, and that both d4 and the move c4, which I didn't really talk about, d4 was my move. Apparently, the move c4 was also still maintaining a decent edge for White. That's a weird move. How is c4 a good move for White in this position? It doesn't do anything to bring the bishop out and blocks off the queen's fourth rank. It must be something to do with the knight coming in to c3 and getting access to these squares, if I had to guess. Okay. So apparently c4 and d4 would have been the more principled approaches for Mr. Norowitz back on move 4. As it stands with b3, we have transitioned now into this endgame where not only has the dragon walked away from all of his troubles in his life, he pulled a full Craig David and became an English pop star. Hopefully that's the first pop culture reference I've made that nobody gets. That's my goal. As you can see, Fraggy27 typed exclamation odds and was told by our bot that White started without the knight on b1 and Black started with pawn on b7, but that's actually wrong. We need to update the bot there, Pete. Can you handle that? We need to update the bot with the odds of today. The odds of today is actually this Fen, which you can go to chess.com/analysis and plug in. It is the position that you see in front of you right now on the analysis board with the king on e4. So sorry about needing to update our MooBot over on Twitch. Yeah, it's not so good. Not so good anymore. Where it started versus where it is now. But Yaacov is hitting that coffee. Gotta love that, right? He's getting that Joe. And I don't know that that's Yaakov's boss. Maybe a friend. He's trying to kick his friend out here, perhaps. I don't quite know what they're talking about. Okay, now he's saying hi. He wants to have his moment of Chess TV fame. We love that. Yeah, Komodo's playing well. Satyaranjan 24 just said. That's you know what? That's a Captain Obvious moment. Komodo is playing well. You're right. Cliffs Marsh, you're welcome. Thank you for being here. Yeah, he's also 16 minutes down on time. I think Yaacov knows this is a bit of a learning experience here, and I'm actually curious. I mean, I've also been somebody who I think, even though I play really aggressive in a lot of the shows I do now, bullet brawls and things like that. I think that I've in over the board chess. I don't know that I've always been the most accurate person converting on the initiative, letting things slip away, having a tendency to want to kind of relax or let the game play itself. And I think that playing a position like this with the king on e4 might be an interesting way to try to work on your initiative skills. I wonder how long it would take me to beat the Chess.com coach level 10 in this position. My guess is it would take me several attempts. Several attempts before I figured out the right approach and something that converted into a concrete advantage. 99 FT plays chess at work all the time. Of course you do. Most of at least this the United States does. In fact, a lot of the world does, because regardless of whether they admit it or not, our numbers say that many of you are playing in your cubicle, as live chess pretty much never crosses below 30,000. Thousands of games going at once these days. So, that's funny, Cinderfella. You just got to get yourself a job like me, where all you do is play chess for a living, right? Because then it's like, Eric comes by. My boss comes by and he's like, Danny, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm playing bullet chess. How long have you been doing that? For like 6 hours. What are you going to do about it? Right? Just kidding. Unfortunately, I have to do a lot more than that. Darn you, responsible accountability. All right. Well, Yaacov has to find a way to develop a plan. I mean, if we're talking about this position, again, from a place that just lets us learn together, forgetting the starting point or the fact that it is now a massive mismatch because the starting point didn't yield our hero enough. What do we see here? Okay, so we have a structure that actually slightly favors white, and the reason why that's the case, everybody, is because white can put the rook on c1 and then gang up on the pawn here, and the c5 square has actually been sort of controlled. Which makes that c6 pawn a target, at least temporarily, right? So, rook to c1 is a move that makes sense. It prevents this knight from developing immediately because the c6 pawn is hanging. Though I wonder, actually, if Komodo would accurately calculate some sort of initiative sacrifice if rook c1 takes and then here. You might actually see black actually get kind of a dangerous initiative for that pawn. So maybe I'm wrong about that, and maybe Yaacov agrees, so instead he's executing a plan in the center rather than going for the C file. It's possible. So again, ignoring the mismatch that it is now and the instructive things that we've already talked about in regards to white's inability to convert on the initiative, the truth is that this is still a little better for white at this time. The pawn is coming to e4. And even if you can build up on the c file, this is still a long-term issue as long as you can stop c5 from happening, right? But the issue is that it's difficult for white to have a concrete enough plan to prevent that. If the knight comes to d7 and the pawn goes to e4 and the bishop goes back, even here, if you try to gang up on the c file, I think it's only a matter of time before black can try to expand. And even a move like e5, trying to create a protected passer, is probably not ideal, as this d-pawn can be undermined, right? Which means it won't be protecting here. Protecting here. Accidentally made a knight formation. So it's interesting. Again, white's better from a human perspective. You would kind of favor Yaacov in a lot of blitz and bullet here. I mean, it's a positional edge for white on the c file and maybe a big center. And okay, let's not forget these pawns are doubled, but none of these things are long-term material or concrete advantages. And as the position becomes more equal in the initiative, right? Once Komodo gets the knight out, maybe gets the rook to the e and c files, then you expect white to not have enough concrete things to convert long term. So, Apparently, we have an Eric Hansen fan in the chat, Putma21, who's obsessing about how good-looking Eric Hansen is and spamming the chat. That's phenomenal. Thank you. I mean, we do like Eric Hansen. That's why we work with the Chess Bros. So, if you want to profess your man crush, maybe a blog is a better place to do it than the live chat, buddy. So let's keep it on task here. Thank you. Oh man. But at least Putman21 got what he wanted. He wanted some sort of awkward male attention on somebody who he finds attractive, and now he's gotten a shout out, so he says thank you, and hopefully he can move on now. What's going on in the Twitch chat? Nanepower34 wants thoughts on Maxim Rodstein getting kicked from the World Cup. Kovalyev was... Okay, well... My thoughts on that controversy are that it was just handled in such a weirdly inconsistent way. You can't not cry foul play or something. Now, I don't want to actually talk too much about it because I know more information than most because Peter Dockers is on site in Tbilisi, our sort of head, chief chess journalist, and he and both Mike Klein have been doing a report. So if you're interested in what really is going on with a lot of the thoughts there in regards to that controversy, you can stay tuned to the Chess.com/news division and look for a report coming there. Kind of a semi-investigative piece. Highlighting the controversy there. So, without going into the details of what's behind the scenes, I'll say that it just doesn't seem consistent, right? I mean, if somebody is breaking the rules with a dress code, they deserve at least a warning first before a forfeit. So something was weird there, for sure. And we plan on pieces coming out, a piece coming out on that soon. Crush'em1 TPS reports. Meow, that's right. Hashtag office reference. Loves me a good office. I have actually fantasized about beating up a fax machine or copier with a baseball bat. Rage issues in Danny, I don't know, right? But I've been there in regards to frustration with technology. As Will Ferrell, I think, said one time, you really shouldn't commit to any sort of long-term relationship with anybody until you see how they react under circumstances of slow internet. Or hardware not cooperating with a technological need, right? So it brings out the rage in everybody. So White's still a little better, as Sir Fayette says there, right? It did not start out equal. It started out with the Fen I am pasting now for you there, and this position here in the Chess.com the analysis board, you see kind of above the player cams here. Mr. Metrics pointing out the computer is only rated 3440, exactly. Not that big of a deal, right? Not really that big of a disadvantage there for Yaacov, of course. Insert sarcasm, but anyway. So what's happening now in the current position? How can White maintain some edge for our human hero? Well, we kind of talked about, e4 coming, and then, I kind of anticipated that I don't think Black even needs to take here. Black could take, actually, and back up, and still maintain a plan of bringing the rooks into the center and look for pressure against the pawns, right? So that's an issue that Yaacov has to consider before playing e4, despite the fact that he played f3 specifically to kind of go for that idea, right? So that's difficult. But again, rook to c1 in the analysis board, Black plays rook to c8, and there's no real way to improve the concrete advantage. So this is a game now where Yaacov is playing, a much stronger player, which he knows, and he knows that he's just going to do his best and learn whatever lesson he can about how Komodo converts on this advantage. Unfortunately, it's not even the same as playing a stronger grandmaster where you always feel you have a chance. Like even against Magnus Carlsen, right? You're sitting across from a human being. Who knows, right? Maybe they ate something last night and they get food poisoning. I mean, who knows, right? But against Komodo, it's just so deflating. I've been exactly in his shoes last month. For those of you who didn't see my man versus machine match, I played much worse than Yaacov. And another time, it's hard when you have no hope, right? It's not even that you're playing a better player. It's the lack of hope, that really that really makes it deflating. Queen's Night Out. I didn't see your suggestion about a bathroom app. You can post it again. I didn't see that. So sorry for missing your suggestion there. I'll pay attention to the Chess TV chat here for a few more moments while the delay catches up here, so you can post whatever your bathroom app is. I hope it's appropriate. But remind everybody, again, thank you for being here, especially for those of you just joining us. If you ask about what the odds were, we are pasting it in the chat. Thank you to everybody who's kind of helping with that. It was the position you see in front of you on the analysis board with the king on e4. And it's an interesting one because, again, it's more challenging in terms of the initiative and, the approach. And really the psychology when it comes to converting on the initiative is totally different than the psychology that comes to converting on a material advantage. So your bathroom app is called Komodo Dragon. I don't get it. Queen's Night Out. I don't know what kind of reference you're making. So again, we talked about how Yaacov said he was nervous about that, and the initiative here. I think this was a fine approach for White. We plugged this position into Chess.com/analysis, and Stockfish was suggesting Knight H3 to start. If you're wondering, you can take the same position, take the fen, and go try it for yourself against our computer coach. But he played Knight F3, and again, I think we were all happy with this approach. We predicted Queen A4. We liked the idea that Yaacov was focused on making the retreat of the king as dysfunctional as possible. But this position was where we were first critical of Yaakov's approach, with B3 being a little strange and slow. Later, I was suggesting D4, and then later our computer staff member confirmed that both D4 and C4 seemed to be the computer's choices for a more centralized attack against the king. After B3, Yaacov had a tactic in mind, which was after Queen F4 check Bishop A3, he was hoping for King to C7 and Knight takes E5, everybody. This is what Yaacov had calculated, and we're going to confirm that when the game is over. But if you're wondering, we're pretty sure this was the idea. The issue was in this position, Komodo played King E6, where suddenly taking here is not possible due to the intermezzo Bishop takes A3. Yaacov then settled on the endgame, and after takes here, Komodo played even better than the two moves I suggested, King F7 and King F6, and played Knight E7, which was a brilliant idea because Bishop G7 would simply run into the minor piece getting trapped. So Komodo grabbed the full equality right there on Knight E7, and so far we've been heading into an endgame where, we kind of expect the dragon to do his thing, right? The dragon's just gonna keep doing his thing right now. He's doing his thing, and even though the original role was Yaacov chasing the king in the middle of the board, the roles are reversed now, and it won't be long before Yaacov is running for his life, much like this young lady here, on whatever crazy version of a reality chess TV show this is. Not chess TV, a reality TV show this is. I love this gif. I'm sorry. I love her face right at the end. Komodo's like, I'm going to get you. And she's like, wait, are you guys actually going to let this thing eat me on television? I didn't sign up for this, right? Because it's some sort of reality TV show where they have to run away from something, kind of like Wipeout, right? The old versions of Wipeout, the original versions. But this is Fear Factor or something. And I'm just always afraid of being that one person who the show goes wrong and suddenly the dragon eats you. So anyway, loves me some of that, but okay. Enough of that. Let's let the dragon speak some parcel tongue and whisper sweet nothings into Yaakov's ear. All right, he plays King F2. This makes sense. I mean, White is still a little bit better. Little bit. Ladya, Seadin, right? The Biot. We have. Okay, so White's still a little better, but again, it's just not a lot going on. Even at high levels now, you would say the advantage is really even if it was human versus human, right? I expect Black to play things like Rook to F8. Put the king on D6, nicely centralized. I don't know if I'm playing for C5 or if I'm bringing this rook over to E8 first. I don't know. But it's a very safe plan for both sides, and Yaacov is committed now to the end game. And I'm committed to all of you. Thanks for being here on Chess TV. Let me check in again with the chat. Superb Dragon gifts by Danny. A+ Entertainment. Thank you, Migranus. I worked hard on that, actually. I know you guys are like, Danny, maybe if you worked a little harder on your chess game and a little less on looking for weird things to add to your chess shows. Okay, point taken. Okay. Rook HF8 was Stockfish's choice, too, and my choice. And Komodo played it. Okay, so there you go. Mr. Metrics says if Yaacov survives the horrible dragon, then you can get a lesson with him. Mr. Metrics, we almost have to put a cap on your advertising at some point here. Mr. Metrics is the personal representative of Yaacov Norowitz's lesson schedule, apparently. We found that out during the chat. We're super thrilled to have him in the chat, of course, and all that stuff. But yeah, of course, Yaacov is obviously a very talented guy and a good teacher, but I don't know. I don't even care. I mean, keep advertising the lessons. It's not a big deal. As long as you do it in a creative way. Like, I love that you went out of your way to say if Yaacov... Like, finding a creative way to do things, I'm always okay with that, right? Like, I found a creative username who said Chess.com V3 sucks, right? I mean, that's a phenomenal username. You obviously are not happy with the new site. Even though there's a lot of other things going for it. I'm not even going to dive into that debate right now, but I love that. Way to go out of your way to provide and create animosity just by existing on the site. I love it. If you do it in a creative way, everybody's happy. Any Hooters. Speaking of Organison's comments, Mr. Metrics is totally cool, dude. I'm totally teasing you. You're fine. Organison mentions that why not have the two engines play against each other? Well, right on that note, you're absolutely right. You must have not seen our announcement that we have a Chess.com Computer Chess Championship coming up. November 13th through 16th, Komodo, Stockfish, Houdini, all of the Shredder. Who are the top engines? I don't even know the top engines these days. I can't even keep track of it. Pretty much Komodo and Stockfish are the two ones on most people's consciousness, I think. The Chess.com Computer Chess Championship is going to be the first time we hold it, and it's taking place in November. So mark your calendar. There you go. Everybody will be running on the same hardware, Bad Axe 99, and that's a great question because they'll be running from the Chess.com server. So every engine will be running from the same server, the same hardware, and playing each other in rapid chess. We are giving all the developers in the Chess.com Championship a chance to submit an optimized version for the rapid time control. Not all of them will, and that's whatever they're choosing. But there is a prize fund that we're putting up to provide some support for developers and their search to make awesome chess engines. So I think it's worth their time to create an engine that is kind of customized for the rapid time control. Pete can post an update on when the official details and announcement of this event will be coming out. I'm pretty sure like any day this week. So, okay. So there you go. The knight comes to f6. This looks like a bit of a problem for Yaacov, who actually only just noticed it. Knight goes to f6. Okay, so that knight is, I guess, toying with ideas of potential threats on the f-file. It's possible. Possible. Probable, maybe even. Probable. What are the threats here? Okay, rook to c3. That walks right into the kind of laughing in the face of danger, right? Because that would be a fork. But there's no issues here, according to Yaakov's calculation. The rook comes up, and, obviously if takes here, white is committed to taking back with the pawn to prevent that idea. And then there's fun moves to look at like bishop g4, just because we have the time to do that in an analysis session. The idea is that white would not be able to take it due to a discovered check and a win of the rook. But what does bishop g4 actually do besides kind of laugh in the face of danger of the f-pawn? It does relocate the bishop to h5, as much as it seems like kind of a silly idea. If white plays rook to c1, though, that would be the problem, because Because now if you defend the pawn, they can take here, and knight e4 check will be giving up 2 pieces for the rook when white recaptures. And if you have to waste a move like bishop d7, then bishop to g4 was just a bowl full of jelly. So Komodo does take on f3, and I expect Yaacov to take back with the pawn pretty quickly. And then what's the plan? One idea, forgetting about my silly bishop g4, which was the most aggressive way to attack the f-pawn, you could just play bishop to d7, which opens up maybe ideas of knight g4 and knight e4. Bishop d7 is also a very useful place for the piece, right, protecting this this pawn on c6 against the coming and obvious doubling of the rooks. Okay, Komodo doesn't do either of those yet. Maybe bishop d7 comes after white commits to the c file to try to gang up on the pawn. But g5 makes sense from the perspective that the sooner you undermine this pawn, the sooner e4 becomes an available square, right? g5 and g4 seems like a pretty straightforward idea. Negative Magnus effect wants to know if Chess.com is going to use a powerful server. We'll use an equal server for all and as powerful as we can commit to the tournament. So I don't know all the back end details on that, so I can't exactly answer the specific GPUs you are requesting. I'm not sure if that's true, CrazyMan217. If IBM brought back Deep Blue, it would be a top contender amongst Komodo, Stockfish, Houdini. I think if you want to talk about hardware hooked up to it, fine. Put as much hardware as you want. But the development of engines has really advanced. You know, the fascinating truth is that they haven't solved chess yet. But, you know, the strength of Komodo and Stockfish and others will be completely... it would completely crush Deep Blue's approach to chess. The fact that Kasparov was even drawing and had chances in those games against Deep Blue is like a complete, it's just insane. All right, so bishop d7 was played. That's kind of what I expected. It both defends c6 against rook c1 and has g4, so we're kind of on the same line of thinking of both the players right now. Or I am, and we are together, as we're all in this together. Does Nakamura count as an engine? I don't think Nakamura counts as an engine, NanPower34. When is the engines tournament? Again, we had the graphic up just a moment ago. It's November 13th through 16th. Look for an announcement with all the details of that coming out soon. How many accounts do we close per week? You can check out the blog. Pete, will you post our official cheating blog that we're now doing once a month from our head chief detective? He's literally a chess cheater detective, like a solving crime on Chess.com. That's what he does. I know how much we close a month, and I'm involved in a lot of the high-profile closures. I don't even know what the numbers are a week, but it's pretty high. We close a lot. No, Nakamura cannot beat Komodo at Bullet. If you don't have odds, human beings cannot beat the engines anymore. I am sorry. That is a fact. So thanks for keeping the questions coming in the chat rooms, though. I'm running out of fun and exciting Komodo gifts to play for all of you. I've tried to do my best, but right now the bottom line is it's only a matter of time before we all. I think with this position being kind of a straightforward plan for black, it's only a matter of time before we all witness. Yeah, it's rated R, Danny. Stop playing that. That's a rated R show. God, they're just mean. They're just mean. Larry, you need to look at yourself, how much you love Komodo dragons, okay? You need to stop petting the dragon and get into a little bit of self-reflection, okay? All right, what's going on here? H6 was played. Welcome to the Chess.com, rats. If you are just joining us, the position started out like this. But with critical moments barely slipping through Yaakov's fingers in the initiative in the opening, it's been a matter of slow re-maneuvering, right, consolidating his position for Komodo, and now if anything, I might like black straight up in this endgame. I feel like the e-pawn is as big of a weakness as the c6 pawn, if not more. I think that the threats of g4 at some point, sooner or later, weakening the e4 square, And if you want to go really old school, right, Nimzovich chess, the truth is that white has more pawn islands. Isolated h2 pawn, central pawn island, wing pawn island here. So white has 3 pawn islands, black has 2, which means the potential for more pawn weaknesses for white. So Larry is very happy right now. And the dragon continues. The dragon continues his plan to bask in the sun. Yeah, James Coleman commenting. I'm not sure if that chat is in the Chess TV chat or in the game chat. If you want to follow the game directly on Chess.com, let me post it for you in the chat of Twitch and Chess TV. But James Coleman, shout out to James, is commenting that if you plug the normal engine, the normal strength of Komodo, which already comes into like 3,400 strength, 3,368, right? And paired off like Danny Wrench's Komodo on my local machine here, which is a pretty powerful PC for all the shows and stuff I do, and you play Larry Kaufman's Komodo would win every time because it's on such a powerful engine there. Not everybody has 30 grand to invest in a in an NSA level tracking system, and then just plug a chess engine into it, right? So Larry Kaufman has a lot of power behind the Komodo that you're playing, and I agree that the CPU makes a huge difference in terms of the speed and the strength of this Komodo, and it's a longer time control, right? If it's in like a blitz time control and a lower CPU, Komodo maybe isn't quite as good as that 3368. Still much better than all of us, but that's why I'm excited to see what happens when we have our Chess.com Computer Chess Championship, because they're all going to be on the same playing field. It'll be rapid time control, so it's going to be fun. Or not that this isn't fun, but fast-paced, and we may even get some blunders by computers, if that is such a thing. It sounds like an oxymoron these days to say blunder by computer, but it's possible, right? Anyway, so rook to e8 is played, which again was what we predicted. I think the e-pawn is just as weak as any c6 pawn. g4 is coming, and maybe right now Komodo doesn't even need to change the structure. If you find yourself in a game to provide an educational nugget, winning the race against weaknesses. So in this case, both sides have weaknesses, e3 and c6. And they're really the exact same type of weakness, right? It's a backward pawn on an open file that has trouble moving forward without creating more weaknesses, right? If you push this pawn, maybe this guy becomes weak. You push this pawn, vice versa, right? So when you have exactly the same type of weakness and you think you're winning the race, meaning you think your weakness is easier to target, there's no reason to change the structure, right? Make your opponent sit in that position and defend something. Like right now, I look at rook e7 and rook to e8 as a very clear plan for Komodo, because now Yaacov has problems here. He can't play king f2 to defend the pawn with the rook, because now h3 is going to hang, right? And that's a big issue. So I expect Komodo to play a move like rook e7, followed by rook to e8. You gang up on this pawn. Okay, the rook can move. Like what do we get? Like, let's go back to our analysis board, shall we? Let's go back to our analysis board and try to anticipate what might actually happen. So if rook e7 was played and the rook moves and you get the rook here, white can defend this move here. But with the pieces sort of on their heels, you start to maybe get tactics like in here with the knight. Again, h5 and g4 is certainly remains on the agenda. And again, that's just like a strategic advice in regards to, if you feel like you have the better of it and both sides have positional weaknesses, no reason to change the game too much. b5, interesting move by Komodo. I still think that the e-pawn is kind of the critical deal here. But b5 is not a bad move either. Really, it just sort of sits on the position a little bit. And you know what it maybe does? Thinking of Komodo, thinking ahead and teaching us something. You know what it kind of does? It actually guards the c4 square, which prevents the knight from taking it, which means that on e4 tactics, let's say inevitably e4 is pushed and this pawn is undermined. If this pawn moves, c4 becomes available, right? For the knight to check. So b5 is sort of an aggressive prophylactic move, just sort of grinding, right? Just sort of sitting tight in the position, saying, no tactics here. If you do eventually push e4, I'm no longer going to be afraid to take it. This might be the kind of thing that Komodo is thinking about. Okay. So Yaacov plays Yaacov plays b4, and then he kind of nods his head, lifts his eyebrows, right? He's like, yeah, right? Okay, we're going to see a quick capture back. Quick capture back, and what's the dragon want now? Does the dragon want the A file? That's one thing that's nice about Yaakov's plan, right? He's opened up the A file, which makes it a little bit harder for just, a buckle down approach on the E pawn, right? Because the A file has become a source of counterplay. But if black plays rook A8 here, black gets there first. So that's the issue. Yeah, and that's exactly what Komodo does, right? And this is the battle of strong players playing chess. I mean, like, you recognize one plan coming from your opponent, so you have to counter-react, and then they counter-blow, right? Because no matter, every action has an equal and opposite reaction, right? So, Yaacov, knowing he's worse, kind of has to try to create some counterplay on the A file, and that does indeed prevent this plan from being something black can just sort of shut his eyes and play. But who gets the A file first? Black does, right? So it's, both sides trying to do their best to prevent the other from having a clear path to victory, but you always have to concede something whenever you push pawns. That's just the truth. And the truth is, with the rook A4 move coming, this B4 pawn being under fire, I'm not really surprised if that leads us to more of the computer, the engine, taking his time, relaxing, saying, I'm just going to fidget spin while you sit there and think, Yaacov, right? And even more of Yaacov getting under time pressure. So, yeah, I mean, the truth is rook A4 looks like a pretty clear plan. And the fact that white can't challenge the A file is kind of irritating. You don't even really want to play knight B3 because rook to A3 pins it. And this is problem. Blah. This is problem. Okay. On the run. On the run, Yaacov is. Master for You says, Danny has a true talent for blabbering about anything and nothing. Absolutely. It's true. This is true. There, I am here. You should write a chess book, Danny. Because nobody reads books anymore. So that would be a great place for you to go hide all of your insights. Because nobody reads books anymore. Does anyone think Yaacov has more than a 1% chance of drawing at this point? I would put his chances of drawing at about 1%. Can humans beat computers at Bughouse? Yes. I can't beat computers at Bughouse, but the best human players, I believe, still can. I don't even know. I know engines have jumped into the crazy house market and pool. I don't know how many engines play Bughouse. So that's an interesting question. A lot of discussion going on about different CPUs, different things available. Yaacov doubles on the C file. This makes sense. But I think we still have threats of rook A4 coming. I think Komodo plays either rook F to E8 or rook A4, if I'm just guessing the way I would think about this position. Remains to be seen how Komodo comes up with a concrete plan, but again, because we know we're playing a game, and Yaacov can't just take forever to continue to hold solidly. Eventually, we expect time pressure to set in, and this position to be harder and harder to defend. And as we've highlighted already before, in terms of our old school thinking about chess, white has more pawn weaknesses. More potential weaknesses leads to more potential problems. I'm pretty sure Jay-Z wrote about that in a rap song, right? Jay-Z was all about rapping about pawn structure. I know. I'm not the only one who found that a little weird and odd at the time, right? So, to answer the question from Twitch chat, Komodo is playing from the Larry Kaufman server, the Larry Kaufman dungeon, the Larry Kaufman castle. I mean, I don't even know how to describe it. I know it's full of awesome amounts of computing power. The NSA calls Larry for favors to kind of track somebody down. Okay, it doesn't go the other way around. So that's all you need to know about the level of juice that is currently backing Komodo. Knight to b3, that is interesting. That is interesting. He just goes to Sacktown. Yaacov says, all right. And Komodo doesn't have to be asked twice to grab pawns, right? Komodo makes greedy Guillermo look like a charitable Charlie. You know what I'm saying? Komodo, these engines love themselves some material. Greedy Guillermo has nothing on Komodo when it comes to grabbing pawn materials. Somebody's asking if she's losing her underwear in the image. I don't think she's losing anything. I think that's just the style of what she's wearing. If that image is getting too distracting for you, we can always move on, and head back over so that Wormtongue can whisper sweet nothings into the king of Rohan's ear. Isn't that a Lord of the Ring reference, or is that a Star Wars reference for all of you guys who are talking about Captain Kirk battling Darth Vader? And then Voldemort hops on the call, right? Hashtag Nerdville, right? I've read all the. Don't worry, I'm just as big of a nerd. Don't worry, just having some funsies. Little LOTR up in this stream, yo. The greatest adventure is what lies ahead. The greatest adventure of them all. Grima Wormtongue, yeah. Fike is going LOTR references in that. Who knows the song I just sang, right? The greatest adventure is what lies ahead. The greatest adventure of them all. That's that. When I was a kid, after I read The Hobbit, I loved that cartoon. I loved the Hobbit cartoon. That's what it's from. The original Hobbit cartoon. Before PJ got off the chain, before they gave Peter Jackson an unlimited budget and apparently a ton of drugs, Peter Jackson starts, investing money in creating like Hobbit Disneyland rides. When you watch the movie, it's not even anything but special effects. Seriously, Peter Jackson got out of control in those movies. I don't care what you say. You can slap your face about my Hobbit references all you want, but Peter Jackson needs to be put on a leash. Okay, that is a fact. What's happening here? I mean, a lot is going on. The truth is, Komodo performed exactly the type of plan we expected. Lemmy Winks. Oh man, that's classic Lemmy Winks. South Park reference. I love that. You went South Park on that, but Lemmy Winks stole that from The Hobbit. Okay. For those of you who don't get the South Park Lemmy Winks reference, you're either too young and it's inappropriate for you, or whatever. But anyway, all right. Let's do some chess here because we are all excited to see what's happening because we have some fireworks. We talk about the ebb and flow of the position, right? The Taoism of the position started here on the analysis board. So pay attention. You can look at the live board to the right of Yaacov, to the left of your screen. Or you can follow my kind of breakdown of where we're headed here. Because the truth is, this just became a really tough situation for White as soon as you knew he had more pawn weaknesses to deal with potentially than Black did. You can't sit there and let Black just coordinate and drive things home. So you react. You create counterplay, the potential for something dynamic, and you open up new squares, and that's exactly what you commend Yaacov for doing. It's the way you would play as a human against another strong human, right? You don't just let yourself get grinded. All right, well, and there you go. It's almost perfect timing for me to be summarizing it because that approach there is maybe something we should just bring Yaacov on, because once b4 was played and the a file fell, the b4 pawn becoming a weakness, it was just a matter of a bluff. Unfortunately, you can't bluff the engine. Rook f7 is played. Yaacov did not have enough to even apparently wanting to keep playing because there's just no threats here. He's only down a pawn, so it's a little bit of a premature resignation, but let's go ahead and bring Yaacov on. Let's bring Yaacov on and have a little chit-chat. Yaacov, my boy, are you there?
Hey,
Hey, man.
Hey, I'm alright.
Hey, don't be frustrated. You're still everyone's hero.
Huh?
You're still everyone's hero, man.
Oh, okay.
You are. I don't know if you knew that. You are still everyone's hero.
Oh, a hero. Got it. Clear. Thank you.
Yeah, you're still everyone's hero, man. You've still
I
gotten.
really appreciate it.
You've gotten 2 draws. You drew both games yesterday, for those who weren't here. You had a tough go of it today, and you said before we started that this was going to be a tough one for you because it really relied on a super accurate conversion of the initiative with the king in the center. No long-term positional or material edges, right?
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, I think once I play b3, his king gets away, and then it's like weird. I mean, I miss 97. I miss 97.
Well, it's good you brought that up, I guess, just because we have that information as well, and yeah, it seems as though B3 was kind of the first moment where it started to slip. The engine says if you play D4 on move 4, or maybe even C4, opening up the C3 square, that white kind of maintains more of an attack. Did you calculate this whole line with B3, C6, Queen F4 check, and Bishop A3, kind of based on this King to C7, Knight takes E5 tactic?
Yes. But I missed King E6. I just forgot the King E6. Missed and then I don't have much anyway, right?
Right.
Yeah, I missed. Yeah. I should probably just play D4, E4, just get a massive space advantage. I'm probably not losing that, honestly. I don't think I'm. I mean, I don't know. It's still rough. I don't see a way to make it. I decided I wanted to catch it, but just like D4, E4, E5, D5, just get all the space, and
right.
It's probably okay. I'm never winning those positions, but I'm probably not going to lose either.
Right. Well, we talked about that. We actually headed over to the Chess.com analysis board and kind of plugged it into our coach Stockfish and saw what the computer suggested. And it seems that there is no mate, but there are lines similar to that, where white ends up with just kind of a massive big center and a long-term kind of difficulty for black, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got the feeling also I wanted the king hunted toward F7 and the king side, not the queen side. I got the feeling that the king side is better for me. Yeah. I don't know, I just sensed it. So once I saw he was escaping, I went, I should play E4. He has to go to F7. I should let him go to F7.
Right.
Get my points to D5, at least D5, D4, D5. Instead of B3, probably just D4, D5. And I have all the space. And I'm not up material, but I have massive space.
Right. Okay. Well, fun and interesting. And as we got into that end game, a little bit of an echo coming back at me, but as we got into that end game where the dragon played even more accurate than I thought he would. I was thinking King F6 or King F7 on move 9, but then he finds Knight E7, and you can't even take the pawn on G7 because the bishop gets trapped.
Yeah, if he doesn't have Knight E7, I don't mind those in position, honestly. If he has kind of King F6, I play D4, I got a bishop. I mean, maybe it's not what I should be getting, but I have the bishop there. I have a D4, I have Knight coming in, his king is uncomfortable. Okay, I mean, maybe it's not ideal anyway, but once he plays Knight E7, it's equal endgame.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably.
So after that, we had a lot of natural moves in the endgame, and we were kind of saying right now it's just, as a human, you just got to do your best and know you're playing a much stronger player and try to stay on the board, right? And you played all these natural moves, and we said that probably if you didn't do something to change the position starting on move, probably on move 25, where he plays rook e8, he's developing a plan against the e3 pawn, and that's when you kind of committed to this b4 idea. You were just looking for some sort of reckless counterplay, even though you knew he was going to get the a file, right?
Yeah, I have to play. No, if I don't play b4, he plays b4 himself, and I'm dead.
Yeah, you have to move the rook off the third rank, right, because of e3 coming. Yeah.
My only thought is maybe instead of e3, like e4. I actually considered e4 much earlier when I played e3 than e4.
Oh, e4 instead of e3.
I just felt like at some point he just goes back to this. Maybe even takes pawn takes pawn, and bishop back and plays c5 one day later, and forces gets e5 for first night.
Right.
I feel like I'm gonna get outplayed.
Makes sense. Well, we know we have another big game coming up in this match, right? And the Fen of our last position, let's preview it so that everybody comes back and joins us in a couple hours. A quick reminder of everybody, Game 4 will feature Yaacov, Yaacov Norowitz is our star, right? Game 4 is going to feature Yaacov versus Komodo as we go over to the analysis board in the following position right here. Have you had a chance to look at this position on game 4 where you're up a piece again as black, but rather than missing the b7 pawn, you're missing the c7 pawn?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about this position, similar to the one you've already played, where you were up this sort of concrete advantage and played pretty well, right? You held a comfortable draw, I think, in game 2 yesterday. Some sketchy moments in the end, but you were even maybe thinking you had chances to win that game.
Yeah, I think it's about the same. I mean, yeah, I'm better prepared to have some practice. I think the yesterday's game was good practice. I don't see pawn. I feel like, okay, I can't get pressure on the center as easy. I'm missing my c pawn.
Right.
Probably play like d4 and stuff like that. But I don't know. I feel like in a sense, c4, his c pawn is not as wild. It's closer to the center. I could deal with it better.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. Like his king's actually guarding. Like, who knows? We'll see.
Yeah. Well, we're excited either way, and as you said, you can play or practice or prepare this position against Komodo as everybody else can. We just gave you the fen in the chat. Go to chess.com/analysis, enter the fen, and click Finish versus Computer, and you can play this position against any level of competition that you want. I'm not even sure if Yaacov knew about that feature. You can practice this position against a computer. But all right, man. Well, we wish you the best of luck, obviously. And we're gonna give you some time now, a couple hours break, and clear your head. Shake off this loss, dude. Hey, we're right there with you. You got a material advantage coming back. Humanity is behind you, buddy. You got this. You could beat Komodo in a match, right?
Sure, I'd be a tie.
Oh, sorry, you could tie him. I mean, that's a huge victory for humanity. So. All right, buddy. Seriously, thanks for the chess, and we will see you in a couple hours. And everybody who's been here, thanks for tuning in. Play the position yourself on Chess.com, and be back in a couple hours to watch Yaacov take on the dragon once again. See you, buddy.